Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel for chapter 277 of Black Clover's review. Now, as I'm sure you guys are already probably mostly aware, the fan translation of the chapter was actually leaked out very early on. The chapter wasn't originally supposed to come out until today, but I believe the fan translation actually came out on Monday because the Korean version got leaked very early on. Because of the fact that the chapter was supposed to come out today, and since there was such a big gap between when the leak came out and when the actual chapter would be released, I didn't really feel comfortable doing a review on the fan translation that early on, so I actually avoided reading the fan translation until today. I basically read the fan translation at midnight tonight, and this is when I'm actually recording it, actually around midnight between like 12:30 and 1 o'clock in the morning my time. Because of the fact that, again, like I said, I didn't really feel comfortable basically doing a review and uploading one that far ahead of the release of the actual chapter, so I decided to hold off on doing a review until the Sunday when the chapter was officially supposed to come out. But because of that, as you already know or probably have already seen, there has been in this past week possibly hundreds of reviews for chapter 277 uploaded onto YouTube and all the other social media sites. So because of that, instead of doing a traditional review like I usually would for Black Clover, instead I'm basically just in this chapter going to be going over my thoughts on the chapter and just giving a loose idea of how I feel about it, where I think the chapter is going to be going from here, and my interpretation of what happened in the chapter. Okay, so jumping straight into the beginning of the chapter, I actually really dug the fact that we actually started off continuing the fight between Yuno and Zeno, even if only for a moment, and we only really got to see kind of like an aftermath of what happened at the end of the last chapter when Yuno kind of one-shotted Zeno. I still like the fact that we actually got to continue on with that fight, even if just a little bit in the beginning of the chapter, because it adds some connectivity between the chapters. It's a little bit jarring, and sometimes when you basically go from one chapter in a fight to another chapter in a completely different fight without basically starting off that chapter with the original fight from the previous one. So I did like the fact that Tabata gave us that connectivity of basically saying, hey, this chapter is going to start off by ending the fight that we saw in the last chapter, and then we're going to move over to the next one. And because of the fact that he actually continued to fight in the beginning of the chapter, we actually got to see exactly how much damage Yuno did with his one-shot attack against Zeno, which we see in this chapter he actually did leave a pretty deep wound on Zeno's chest, where we actually see a very big gape where he's actually bleeding out from it, and it seems like Zeno is actually out for the count. Now, I don't think that Zeno actually is down for the count just yet. In fact, I think that the fights that we're getting between these characters first fighting off against the Dark Triad members are basically just going to be fake outs. Except with the exception to Yuno's fight. Because Tabata has been setting up for a while now the rematches between all these characters, Yuno versus Zeno, Noelle versus Vanica and Megicula, and Asta versus Dante and Lucifero. And because he's been setting up those fights, it wouldn't really make sense for after all that setup to basically have these characters be defeated by other characters besides those three. Now again, since Yuno is here, we could actually see Yuno be the only one to actually defeat a Dark Triad member, because that would basically be the ending of his setup fight. But when it comes to Vanica fighting off against Charlotte, Real, and possibly Dorothy, and Dante fighting off against Noct, Jacked, and possibly Fugoyan, I don't think those fights are going to end with the captains defeating those Dark Triad members. Now, what could end up happening, and I've actually been thinking about this since I actually read the chapter the first time, 2 hours prior to recording this video, I think what could actually end up happening is that we will actually see the captain level people defeat the human parts of those fights. So basically what I mean by that is that we would have Vanica lose to Charlotte and Real and possibly Dorothy, and the same thing when it comes to Dante, we'd actually see him lose and take another loss versus a captain level opponent by losing to Noct, Jack, and possibly Fugoyan. And then once later on in the arc, when we actually end up getting some of the gates from the Tree of Death actually opening up, we could see their partner devils Megicula and Lucifero actually come back and be the opponents for Noelle and Asta. Because again, when it comes to Noelle's fight, even though she does have some of a beef now with Vanica because of the fact that she was the one still responsible technically for killing her mom and the one that kidnapped Lord Wachika, really her beef since she found out about devils was really with Megicula, so it actually would make more sense for her to fight against Megicula than it does Vanica. So we could have Vanica be again defeated by someone else. And when it comes to Dante versus Asta, really since Asta already defeated Dante, as I said before, it could just end up being that he doesn't really need to fight him again. He could just instead fight Lucifero. Now that's really all I have to say about the beginning part of the chapter, besides the fact that it was actually really cool to see Yuno in this brand new spirit dive form again, the Borealis, I think that's how you pronounce it. And I know a lot of people are already broken down what's going on with that mode in their own reviews. I'm planning on doing a separate video talking about each of the transformations that Yuno has and the possibility of the remaining ones that he could end up getting later on. The only thing I will say for this video is that I think some people are thinking that we actually will get to see some of the predictions that people have come out when it comes to Yuno possibly getting 4 total modes with his Spirit Dive. We could possibly end up seeing the other 2 in this arc. I don't think that's going to actually end up happening unless Tabata actually plans on ending this series with this arc, because the way it's traditionally going down with Yuno is that each time Asta gets a power-up, Yuno gets one as well. Which is the reason why Yuno got the Barrios mode in this arc, because of the fact that Asta is also getting a power-up with his Devil Union mode. So unless Asta actually ends up getting a brand new power-up on top of that, I don't think we're going to see Yuno actually getting another power-up as well. Now when we actually do take a quick cut away from the fight and see what's going on with Vangelis and Yami and the Tree of Death, it's a little worrisome how big that tree is getting and how quickly it's growing. So I'm starting to think that maybe more gates than I originally thought actually are going to end up being opened. I thought that we'd probably see maybe like 5 gates be opened up. I'm thinking that we actually might get all the way down to the final gate at this point. Now getting into the actual part of the chapter that I really wanted to talk about, the fight between Charlotte and Real versus Vanica. I actually really dug this fight. I actually really dug the way that Tabata actually progressed the fight throughout the chapter, because he did it in a way that was more along the lines of how a fight in Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super or any version of Dragon Ball really kind of goes down, where we actually start the chapter off with Charlotte throwing a filler attack. She wasn't really trying to, if you look at it part of the chapter, when you look at Charlotte using her first attack in this fight in the chapter, you can tell that she's not trying to basically defeat her opponents just yet. She's basically just putting the feelers out there. She's trying to figure out exactly how strong they are in that moment. So after the 2 Diamond Kingdom soldiers that Vanica actually has been controlling due to her curse magic, which by the way, we already knew going into this that the Diamond Kingdom had been taken over. But what I'm wondering is, are these soldiers actually a result of basically after the Diamond Kingdom got taken over by the Spade Kingdom, did Vanica just basically just take these soldiers that were captured and say, you guys are going to work for me now because she saw potential in them as useful puppets? Or were these members that basically Morris took over when he defected or actually was kicked out of the Diamond Kingdom? Did he bring these characters along with him to the Spade Kingdom when he joined up with them? Because we don't really know how it went down with Morris. Was he kicked out of the Diamond Kingdom? Or was he basically, was he basically exiled from the Diamond Kingdom? Or was he basically going to be arrested and he fled from the Diamond Kingdom? Because if he fled, it would make sense that if he had still some of the Diamond Kingdom soldiers that he experimented on under his control, he would be able to escape at least 1 or 2 of them. And assuming that these 2 aren't the same soldiers we saw with him back when we saw him a few chapters ago, experimenting, basically healing up Dante, we know that he could at least have 4 members of the Diamond Kingdom with him still, who are under his control and possibly being used by Vanica and the other members as their personal puppets. But getting back to the fight, not only was Charlotte's move basically just there to kind of like test the power levels of her opponents, it was also a very strategic move, and actually was very well done the way she did it, because she used, and I might be misinterpreting this, but what it seemed like she did in the chapter was that she used that move to basically plant the seeds for her upcoming attacks in the future part of the chapter, and that Real and her were actually working in conjunction with each other to basically let her magic be able to take its full effect. Because we see then Real, after she launches an attack and it's blocked, Real launches his own attacks using what looks like water and earth magic, which at first you would think that he's basically just using those attacks to kind of block the 2 spells from the 2 Diamond Kingdom soldiers that Vanica is controlling. But if you look at what he's actually doing and actually pay attention to what's going on in the chapter, it seems like the 2 of them are actually working together basically for Real to use his earth and water element magics to create soil for Charlotte's seeds to grow from, so that her magic can actually take full effect. And we actually get to see the full effect of their combination when Charlotte activates her mana method, Briar Magic, Paradise of the Blue Briar, which creates a gigantic field of blue briar roses around them. Basically, it looks a lot more like a mana zone than anything else, but it actually is just a regular mana attack, which we can see actually works by sucking the curse out of her opponent. So any opponent that has a curse magic, she basically sucks it out of them, and it works to basically power her up. As Vanica puts in this chapter, Charlotte basically created anti-curse special magic, which was actually really impressive, because even though Charlotte's curse has been basically broken since she was saved by Yami when she was 18, she still had the effects of the curse that was under her. That's why her Briar Magic was always blue, because the original color for it is supposed to be red, but because her curse actually weakened her magic, they always came out as blue roses. But after she got possessed by Charlotte and kept some of her memories of the fights that Charlotte went through and realized that Charlotte was actually able to utilize the red roses, not the blue ones, she realized that her curse actually wasn't as limited in her power as she actually thought it was. It actually was more of a mental thing. Because of the fact that she thought her curse was limiting her powers, she had been holding back her actual abilities. But once she got out of her head the idea of her curse being a crutch and decided to find a way to basically utilize it and boost her own magic power, we saw the results of that in this chapter, where she was actually able to find a way to basically absorb other people's curses and use those curses to be a boost to her power, not a limiter. And what's even better about this is the fact that Tabata shows us that it wasn't just something that she figured out overnight. We actually get to see, because in the anime we actually do get to see a little bit of her training in the Heart Kingdom, but we completely skipped over that in the manga. So because of that, Tabata actually decided to give us a few panels in the chapter throughout the entire fight, or throughout her part of the fight with Vanica, where we actually see her basically come to the understanding of how to utilize her curse through her training from being in the Heart Kingdom, and even including all her training prior to that when she was basically just training to be her normal magic knight, moving all the way up to being a captain. It was kind of like she was a seed, and then everything she experienced prior to this, again going back to her training as a magic knight to become a captain, to basically finding out more information about her own magical abilities when she was being possessed by Charla, and to go into the Heart Kingdom and learning Mana Method over there, and then studying even more than that after she came back from the Heart Kingdom and went back to being the captain of the Blue Rose Knights over in the Clover Kingdom. She was a seed planted in the ground, and everything that I just mentioned off that she experienced and went through were basically the nourishments, the sun, the soil, everything that she needed to basically bloom from a seed into a full-grown flower. And because of that, we get to see that she gets a brand new badass transformation, looking like a queen herself, and actually fits, because according to the fan translation, this is actually what the name of the transformation is called, Briar Queen, where we see that she is utilizing not only her red roses, but her blue roses as well. And man, her design for her transformation looks incredible. I cannot wait to see more of this, and actually plan on doing a video later on basically going to break down on her transformation and kind of what the effects of it are, kind of like what the abilities of the blue rose briars versus the red rose briars, what those are, because seemingly, just from my quick interpretation from reading the chapter about 2 or 3 times today, it seems like her blue roses are used to absorb curses from her opponents, and then her red roses are basically just her more powerful attacks. But that's just what I get from a first glance. I really want to go back and look more into what her transformation does, what her abilities are, and kind of give a real more in-depth idea of what actually is going on here. Now, as you know, if you actually already read the chapter, by the end of it, Charlotte actually ends up defeating Vanica, even though Vanica goes into what I've been calling her hybrid form, but I believe, as I mentioned in previous reviews, is actually her Devil Union form. Even though Vanica goes into that, Charlotte's actually able to easily defeat her without really lifting much of a finger, because, like I said prior to this, the briars that she uses actually absorb people's curses, and since Vanica uses curse magic when she's activating her demon powers, or her devil powers, she was actually easily able to be captured by it. And as Charlotte mentions in the chapter, her briars, the harder someone struggles and the more powerful someone is, the tighter they basically bind them. So because of the fact that Vanica is so very much powerful, it actually encompasses her in a giant ball of briars. And Tabata actually tries to trick us in this chapter by making us think that Charlotte actually did win this fight, because of the fact that we see Vanica begging Charlotte not to end the fight just yet, because she actually thinks she found the perfect opponent for her to fight against and have the most enjoyment from the fight, due to Charlotte now having anti-curse magic. But like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I actually think that when it comes to Vanica fighting off against Charlotte and Rio, when it comes to Dante fighting off against Noct, Jacked, and Fugoyan, I don't think that we'll actually see the fights ending just yet. I think that because of the fact that we have so much set up for Noelle to fight off against Vanica and Megikula again, and for Asta to fight off against Dante and Lucifero again, that we're going to see at least somewhat of those fights be reenacted or basically have a rematch. But also, like I said in the beginning of the video, we could see Vanica and Dante actually be defeated, and their devils be the ones that actually had the rematches against Asta and Noelle. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. I'm sorry it's a lot shorter than it usually is, but like I said, because of the fact that the videos that... But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. It's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'm sorry that this video is possibly going to end up being shorter. I don't know. I haven't actually edited it yet as I'm saying this. But if it does actually end up being shorter, I'm sorry. But like I said before, there's already been so many reviews posted since Monday about the chapter that I really don't think that I can actually add too much more to an in-depth review. So I basically just wanted to give my thoughts and opinions on the chapter just so I can have a video to post on the channel. Now, I didn't use my webcam for this one just because of the fact that since I was just giving my opinions on it, I figured there was no real point to basically digging that out and setting that up. But let me know in the comment section down below if you like it better when I don't have the webcam on and basically you just hear my voice with some images on the screen. I feel like that might be a more appropriate way to do reviews now. I don't know. I might go back to doing recordings or video recordings next week, but we'll see. But let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about this week's chapter. Did you enjoy it? Did you find it exciting to find out that Charlotte also has a transformation? I mean, what's that now? We have, I think, 6 total transformations, maybe 7 if you count Mimosa's. Actually, yeah, no, I count Mimosa's her floral dress as a transformation. So we have 7, I believe 7 total transformations in the series so far. And I'm thinking that as we continue going on, we're going to see more characters have transformations. So I'm hoping that we actually do get to see that, and I cannot wait to see what those transformations look like. But like I said, guys, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Comment down below your thoughts and theories, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.